Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department. This is a very exciting episode because it is our last episode of 2024. I am your co-host, Ann Baum, VP of Marketing at Town Properties, and with me is my co-host, Chris Johnson, who is the marketing leader at Irwin R. Rose, a owner-operator in Dallas, Texas. Chris, how's it going?
Fantastic. Can you believe it's been a year since we've launched this podcast?
No, I think it's crazy. We actually, I think, recorded our very first episode, around this time, 2023, where we talked about what we were planning for 2024. So it's basically like, this is like a year in review.
What a ride it's been. So much fun.
It's been so much fun. So, it's just you and I today. No guest because we kind of wanted to, have our year be rounded out by us talking about kind of what we had focused on in 2024 and what we're really excited about for 2025. So I want you to go first because you had a really big year. You were able to go to Irwin R. Rose and start a new opportunity and really help them rethink about how they think about marketing. So what are you most proud of this year?
It's been a ride, and the transition to a new firm, you never know what's going to happen. And it's been so fantastic. I'm so lucky and fortunate to have found this landing spot. I'm most proud of what we've been able to accomplish as a marketing team over the last 4 or 5 months, reinventing the tech stack. I think we've accomplished a lot in this time period. I'm not sure it would happen at a lot of companies where you can move this quickly and reimagine literally everything that we were doing in marketing so quickly. And it's been a wild ride. It's been fun. We've been busy, and I'm really excited about the team and what we've put together, launching new websites with Resi, changing our PPC and SEO company to also using Resi, trying out new companies like Apartment Geofence and Rent on some of their other products, of course, working with Apartment List and Zillow, um, and just kind of using opinion, bringing social media in-house and not paying for a third party and experimenting with that, which we can get into a little bit later. But basically just reinventing this tech stack and launching it and actually having it go live and use the data already to set us up for 2025.
That's unreal. And you're right, that's a lot of change. What what do you think has made, like you said you're seeing data already, what do you think has made like the most immediate impact?
So I think, as we all know, our websites are our best asset. And I think changing our website and bringing it into the modern era, we did a semi-custom template, which I can't believe I said that because I didn't think I would do a customized template again in my career. Did one so long ago, but we really made it ours, and we're already seeing the benefit of it. Our websites are already converting at a higher rate than what our previous websites were. And we have some really good SEO going. Our PPC campaigns are much better, just in the sense that we're targeting the right audience. And what's so great is when you bring that together and you have it under one house, call it, you are making sure that those conversions are coming in because everybody has, interest in making sure that you're successful. So I would say that I'm most proud of. And I think that's been the biggest difference so far. I mean, just on the side, bringing social media in house, we're not doing bedroom posts anymore and kitchen posts. We're really getting out into the neighborhood and what does this community actually care about and what do they want to see? And believe it or not, I do think it helps marketing. I think we have to be doing it. But people that are coming into our company or applying for our jobs are noticing what our social media is doing because they certainly care when they're doing the research.
Yep.
And they make comments on it. So I'm also very proud about that program and what a turnaround it's been and the content we're putting out, which is actually hyperlocal content that matters. So I think with that and then getting all the, reputation management under, with opinion and everything that we're doing with them, we just know what our residents are saying. We know what our prospects are saying, and now we even know what the applicants are saying. And so I think it's making a difference across the board for all of our business.
That's really exciting. That's interesting too. I haven't really heard of applicant feedback before. Will you tell me more about that?
So funny because we're such a small company that I'm in it, right? And I have these conversations either with the regionals or with the head of operations, and these things just trickle out. And in the last couple of interviews, people have just noted that when they were doing their research, they really like what we're putting out there. They like the new website, for example. They like the social media. They don't know that it's new, but they like that we're out there. The post, we're doing way more posts than we would ever get with a third party. And the posts actually matter. And we're starting to focus on video now too. I have some real exciting stuff. I can't wait to talk about 2025 on the video side because I'm going to get one of my pet projects that I've wanted to do for 10 years done. And we've already started it. But I think when you put it all together, it's just an exciting time to try to do something different. Me and you and our guests talk about going back to the basics. And I think I did that with the website. You know, we made it easy to see the pricing. It's on the homepage. We focused on video, but we didn't put it at the top so that we don't mess up the load times. And so we just kind of reimagined what we wanted our website to be and how we wanted it to function and what information we're actually trying to get people to look at. And it's funny, still, as we've talked about, homepage. It's homepage and floor plans.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
now my homepage is getting even more traction because I have all the information on the homepage. They don't have to leave the homepage to go somewhere else. And I think that's made a big difference too in what we're trying to do, especially in those hyper competitive markets like San Antonio, where, everybody's giving away the farm and you have to try to stand out.
Yeah, didn't you say, like, up to 3 months worth of concessions the last time we talked?
Yes, there are some operators down there giving up to 3 months of concession on some of the new deals on lease ups because they need to fill it up. And it's just mind boggling what they're doing. And I get it. I mean, everybody's going to run the business they want to run it. We have to compete. So we have to do everything we can to make sure our prospects are getting what we need to provide to them.
So I know you're really good with data and kind of reporting on success. So talk to me a little bit about how you've been reporting these successes internally in the company.
Well, it's funny. I said some reputation management and knock scores just today. Our knock average follow up is almost 3.5 as a company. And knock would say the benchmark is 1.5. Our engagement is at 95 and knock sets their engagement at 85%. And so let me talk about that first, because as you know, I love follow up. Yes. Something I'm proud of because if you do follow up right, you'll win more times than not. And our occupancy show it. We're occupied at 96% as a company, which is pretty amazing. But we really got back to the basics. We had them do all of the trainings that are offered in knock. We had a special training done by our knock representative to go through on how you're actually supposed to engage and follow up with our prospects. And we brought that number from a 1.5 average follow up to a 3.43. And we brought our engagement scores were always pretty good, but we even increased those from like a 93%, pushing 95 over the last 30 days. And it's because the teams understand that to win and to be successful, you have to follow up with your prospects. And it all starts from the corporate office and encouraging them to do these things and making sure they have the training to do so. So that was a win that I sent just today because I think it's just so important to continue to talk about engagement and follow up, because how are you going to get them in the door if you're not doing the follow up? And I know Eden came on
Yep.
our podcast, and I'm actually working with him again through Resi, and he's done some secret shops, as you know.
Yeah.
And our teams are following up, and like when he sends us the results, and we're like doing better than 85% of our competition in the United States. I mean, what else could you ask for? So I think that's a huge win. I'm always looking at that knock data, and it doesn't have to just be knock. Whatever CRM you're using to gather the data, you're going to get the same type of information. And so that was a huge win. And with the new websites, believe it or not, for the first time, we own our Google accounts and our G4 accounts where we actually have the data and we don't have to go to a dashboard, although it does load into the dashboard on our websites. And I'm just looking at the data, and we've only been live on some of these sites for, 7 to 10 days, one of them, over a month. But you can see the interaction and how much what people are searching for. And it's one bedrooms in our markets right now, which is kind of surprising. I think they're price hopping, which doesn't surprise any of us. It just reinforces that your homepage is so important. All of 80% of my traffic is hanging out on the homepage.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And again, it's like instead of trying to change that behavior, well, why not adapt to the behavior? And like you've done, you've put all of that information on the homepage, which makes a lot of sense. Going back to Eden, he taught me a phrase recently called multi-threading, which is basically, he told me it's when, your theory about if you follow up with emails multiple times, that's only one follow-up. But if you follow up with an email, a phone call, a text, then that's three follow-ups. So, you guys working together on that makes total sense because,
I was thinking about this the other day. With all of the technology that we have and all the information that our prospects can get, when they walk in the door, I always used to kind of think like, okay, 33% is kind of the average. I really feel like if they walk in the door these days, we should be at 50% closing. Like you got them to come in.
yeah,
And that is an extraordinary thing with the way the technology works today, in my opinion, because you have a lot of choice. There's a lot of competition. Typically, you're not the only property on the street. You're not the only property in the area. And so if you get them to walk through the door, you've done something right. And we really need to work with the teams to just continue to talk about how important each prospect is that walks in the door because they have a choice.
they have a choice. And I think we are just talking about this with Sarah, even we're continually giving prospects more information about our properties, photos of units, 3D tours of units. So you're exactly right. Like they're doing so much of the decision making before they ever go in. And if there's a disconnect, we've talked about a disconnect between how we're visually representing a property versus the curb appeal when someone gets to the property. I mean, I think there are so many layers now because you're right. People aren't just, oh, I'm going to take a Saturday and go to 10 properties it's like I've got two or three properties on my list and they can make a snap decision. This is related but not related. But I think about this. I was shopping for a car about 5 years ago and I went to I researched a whole list of cars, whatever. I went to a dealership and they gave me the keys to a car. I said, I want to test drive this type of car. They gave me the keys. I got in the car. I drove it for like a minute and I go, I hate this car, right? Like just it wasn't the car's fault. I just didn't like it. And so, anyway, I just always think about that experience. Now in that case, it's not quite related because there wasn't really anything the salesperson could have done. Like I did all the research, but anyway, I had so much information, but ultimately the car just didn't feel right. So never mind, I'm rambling. It's not quite related, but I always think about that as we talk about this kind of but I think you're right. I think the next step, I first think having consistent conversion rate expectations. Have you ever tried to find lead to show and show to app and app to, oh my God, app to move in like conversion rates? It is very difficult to find
Yeah.
those benchmarks online. So I feel like first as an industry, we kind of need to have like some sort of standard benchmark and then we can start thinking about like you're saying, like, okay, is this actually accurate or should we be expecting more because our prospects are more informed?
I think it does go both ways. And of course, the properties look good and the teams need to do their job when you get there. But my point is that it's not going to be a perfect science, but it's just like we we've given them the tools and we've gotten somebody in the door. And I just think today it's harder to get somebody in the door than maybe it was, uh, you know,
A couple of years ago, even 4 years ago.
the technology. Yeah. And just the way that, things work and people don't necessarily want to go give up a Saturday or a Tuesday to go look at apartments either. Of course, it's a place to live, but I think they like to do a lot of research at home, which is why we've talked about the 24/7 cycle and we need to be available for them. And that's where AI comes in. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just my whole goal this year with Irwin and our Rose was to put our best foot forward, have a great tech stack that I know I could count on, and let the technology do the job for us. And then add on to it next year. And what's been great is in through all of this process, we found stuff that needed to be fixed. And so we'll be starting 2025 on a much cleaner note with site plans that are correct, floor plans that we needed to get redrawn for whatever reason, all of the things that we need, photos, we know what we need to get now. Um, and so it's really given us, it's a great way for me to learn the properties, for my team to get back into it and really like get into the weeds on what we're marketing. And then for us to all go see the properties, it's just a good way to end 2024 going into 2025.
I agree. There's nothing better than a team, site visit to, like that's, like, instant bonding. You're all in a car together, having fun, going from property to property. So then tell me a little bit about your video, what you're excited about from a video standpoint in 2025. You teased that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so 2025, we're definitely gonna focus on video for a lot of our content, and we're gonna do TikTok style videos without using TikTok, if that makes sense. So we're gonna use some of the cuts that they use, make it really fun, exciting. The project that I'm most excited about, and this is just me nerding out on content, I'm gonna be doing the video FAQ for our properties. And so our frequently asked questions won't just be written. We're gonna do videos, we're gonna make it fun. Think of it as a sports center newscast. There will be images on the screen as we're talking and answering these questions. It's not going to be just a dull video of, are you pet friendly? Yes, we're pet friendly. We'll have images of dogs, maybe the dog park, whatever.
Yep.
Do it on a green screen, do it for the property, really branded. But video FAQs, I think, are because you can put a face, it's humanized. People like video. It's another form of content. We can repurpose that everywhere. I mean, you can use it on social, you can use it on your website. And so the video FAQ for me is just doing something different that our competitors are never going to take the time to do because it's hard. And I'm fortunate to have the team to be able to do it. And so that's going to be my big project next year. And I'm very excited about it. And it's going to, I mean, really what we're going to be working on is tweaking our marketing programs, creating video that matters, creating content that matters, and figuring out where AI fits. Because I think that'll be my next goal next year is, the one big project I'll work on is figuring out what AI platform I'm going to use and how it's going to fit into our tech stack to go along with everything else that we're doing. So I'm really excited about it. I just think, video has always been so important. And I think we still underutilize it personally in our industry. We're doing some really fun, what we call Riz, uh, 60-second videos for the properties. And of course, you've walked into a property and you have the USB and it's got the normal pictures floating through or maybe the normal drone. We're doing it totally different. I've been working with Carlos, our producer, to do this a little bit differently, think of it differently, show the video differently. Um, and those are now playing in a lot of our offices for the videos that we've gotten. And so it's really going to be video content that we use on site and then also digitally to move our product. And I'm really interested to see how our geofencing does as we've gotten smarter about it. It's a program that I've always loved. Of course, ILS will be in my marketing program, but as we continue to get smarter and look at things, how do I mix it in with the other marketing programs that I'm using? And how do I maximize it? And one thing that I'm doing in 2025, which is really kind of a first, is I'm not going to blanket. So apartments.com may work at one property, may not work at another. And so my marketing plans are going to be different. And I'm just saying apartments.com because everybody knows it, but that could be Zillow, it could be geofencing, it could be even some of the video work that we do. It's not going to be one shoe fits all. It's
Mhm.
it's really going to be localized content and the program will be built for that property.
I think that's amazing. And I mean, each of those channels are used by different demographics. Like, not everyone uses apartments.com, not everyone uses Zillow. Like, there are very specific kind of audiences and even like price points that are a good fit. So I think it does make sense to look at it property by individual property and say, okay, who is the target audience for this property? What is the price range? Is it located in a city area that's gonna get a lot of searches, or is it located in the suburbs where the search volume is gonna be minimal? Am I gonna be paying a package price and getting less in I mean, all that kinda stuff like you're talking about, and so I think you're exactly right. It's just looking at the personality, looking at the individual property and making a marketing package that works. So, the video is exciting too because it's trackable, because it's different, like you said, like, people always talk about video, but actually being able to execute it on the individual property level well and uniquely, is such a great gift and benefit. So, I have no doubt that that's really gonna help your properties stand out in your markets.
Yeah. And I mean, really, it already has just with the properties we've started it. we videoed now every vacant on properties when we go out for every floor plan. And so they can show a vacant A1, whether it's ready for them or not. And as you know, at my company now, I have some very small properties where they're full all the time, which is great. So they don't it's hard to show. And now they'll be able to have these videos to be able to show people. And I know the video of a floor plan and works like Matterport and some of the virtual, but I do think the motion of an actual video versus having to click through.
Mhm.
And I've done something a little bit different too, where I put the map on it so it works like a virtual tour. So the map is showing you where you are in the floor plan.
Yeah, I like that. You guys did a really great job, yeah, with that.
But we're just trying to be different. And I mean, it's back to the basics, but also trying to be different because how else are we going to compete with the Gray Stars of the world if we don't try to be just a little bit different? And it doesn't have to be a lot different. It just has to be a little bit different or take a little bit more time on something that sometimes the larger companies aren't going to be able to do just because of portfolio size
Yep.
and just the scale that they have. And so that's really what my team and I are focusing on. And it's been fun because each of us focus in on what we're good at and we're passionate about. And so some of this video work we're doing, even for LinkedIn for the company, it's fun, it's exciting. We're getting the teams involved, and we're cutting it, and we're doing it in house, and we're doing it fast. So, I mean, what else could you ask for on video content if you could do it in house for some of this stuff and get it done quickly? So that's why I'm just so excited because I think we're really going to be able to push it.
Yeah, no, you will, and pivot, that's easy. It's like, "Okay, this did work well, or this didn't quite work like we thought it was going to. Let's pivot. Let's quickly." I think that's sometimes the hard part about outsourcing is that the pivoting and the learning curve is difficult. And then it makes it sometimes almost like, well, what we're getting is good enough. And when you're good enough, then that's where you get complacent. That's where you fall behind. So it's kind of a vicious cycle.
What about you, Ann? What did you your biggest accomplishment this year? You got a lot done.
I did. I got a lot done. I That's like a trick question because I think we really solidified something that we had started at the beginning of the year, which was working on aligning marketing and operations through KPIs. That was really a big focus. We're having monthly meetings from an operations standpoint, with our VPs, and we're looking at, I think we struggled a little bit for a while. Like, what data do we show that tells the story to someone in operations and not to someone in marketing. And so being able to flip that storytelling by combining KPIs that both sides cared about to tell that full story was really huge. We were able to bring on two fantastic team members who made an already strong team even stronger. So we have someone now who's dedicated specifically to optimizing ILS listings to optimizing pay-per-click and SEO campaigns. We were always looking at that data, but she's looking at it on a whole nother granular level. And it just before we were really looking at like cost per lease only. And now she's looking at a metric, which is kind of a micro metric, I would say, which is basically like lead from an iOS standpoint, like listing views to leads. So that conversion rate. So when people are seeing our listing on an iOS, is it compelling enough to make them want to send in a lead? Because, you're paying a flat rate. Like if people are viewing I mean, it's kind of like the websites we were talking about. If someone is viewing your listing on an iOS, then you've gotten them halfway there because they've already gotten through the impression phase, they've already filtered however they want, and they're looking at your listing. So that was a really big accomplishment. And then just having someone really dig into like the granular details from an SEO and pay-per-click standpoint to make sure we're focusing on the right keywords, that we're making proactive budget recommendations. I mean, just everything to again really support our operations team. So that was really big, building the team, continuing to align. We started introducing some additional KPIs into kind of, is marketing performing well at a property, and are the leads being handled? Is there opportunity maybe to change how the leads are being handled, and so we put together some benchmarks for key, lead and leasing steps, and we've started sharing those, kind of we were always talking to the RVPs about it, but now we're talking, kind of an ad hoc basis to the properties when they're coming to us for marketing help. And it's felt very much like a team effort. It's not, it's just us together as two groups looking at a holistic picture saying, how can we help these properties perform better? So I'm really proud of that.
And that's amazing. I have a follow-up for you.
Yeah.
On this micro data you're gathering, did it confirm or change your mind on your advertising strategy?
No, no, it didn't. Although that's interesting. I'll come back to that in a second. But it made really the purpose was if we are utilizing these sources, then they have to be performing as well as they possibly can be. Um, because we're spending money on them. So it didn't necessarily we're still ultimately using that cost per lease as kind of a benchmark of success from a marketing source standpoint. However, it was like, well, can we improve the volume of leads from a particular source, which then in theory would decrease the cost per lead, which then in theory would decrease the cost per lease, all things equal, running smoothly. So, no, it didn't really change my mind. It just made me feel like we were really doing the right thing for the marketing that we had in place, by having more eyeballs on it.
What metric are you using for your cost per lease? I'm sure the audience wants to know.
We are using an average of 1 month's rent at a property as our cost per lease goal.
I've been struggling with this, and I know this is kind of off topic for what we're talking about, but this is what happens with our conversation, Dan, the data. I struggle with it a little bit. I use that same metric, but I don't include the total cost of the lease. Like, I don't throw the concession in if the concession's there. I wonder sometimes if I'm short selling what the cost per lease really is, or if I'm using enough data to actually calculate it. Obviously, I know what my spend is doing, but is it the whole cost? And I struggle with that sometimes on if I'm looking at it the right way.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because then there's additional things you could include. You can include incentives, leasing incentives. You could include concessions. You could include average days vacant and how much revenue will swap. Yeah.
So I guess for the purpose of if a source is working holistically, you want to be under that number. And then if you really wanted to dive in, you wanted to show the teams like, hey, here's why occupancy matters. So we can get rid of all this other stuff because here's your true cost. And I guess that'd show up in NOI or some other places anyway, but I don't know. Just sometimes I think about that stuff. And I know as marketing people, me and you sometimes get in the weeds on thoughts like that, but I think it also helps us improve our programs
Yeah.
when we think about it that way.
I think it's interesting because I kind of struggle to like, I think I've shared with you before, like from an overall operating expense standpoint, our advertising spend is a relatively low percentage. And that's how I think of it. I've heard other people say, kind of uh, advertising cost per unit and some other metrics. But I always think about overall, from an operating standpoint, how much are we spending on advertising? And it's a pretty low percentage. And so when I think about it from that standpoint, and I think about how much optimization we could do, it's almost like, well, am I going to go from, a 3% to a 2.7% of operating expenses? And is all of that worth it versus focusing on things that might decrease revenue or might improve revenue drivers like average days vacant or average rent or something like that. So like I think that I kind of get stuck on that sometimes, like how much can I optimize before it doesn't really impact NOI that much, and really we should be focusing on some other I don't know, other place.
100% agree.
Um
But what are you going to do in 2025? What's the plan?
the plan is twofold. So I have talked a lot about may surprise everyone, but I've talked a lot about my inspiration from Shruti at AIM this year. And so I do have a brand package put together that it's kind of a brand and customer experience package that we are going to test at one property. Which I think honestly is gonna be an entire year project. I mean, this is like, I feel like Star Trek, like, oh, I was watching one of the recent Star Trek movies, and it was basically their mission was to, like, go out into space and find, like, planets that, like, had never been discovered before. I feel like I'm on the Enterprise, like, "Okay, I am going into this territory of something that I've been thinking about, that I've started believing strongly in, I took a class to try and learn more about branding and customer experience, but I kind of feel I'm excited about it, but it's like it's gonna be an entire learning curve, and I'm sure where we start is not where we're gonna end up, and that's okay. I'm fine with that, but I'm really excited about I think it goes back to my previous comment. We've done a lot of work in the past 5 years optimizing and understanding audiences and understanding marketing sources and having KPIs and aligning with operations. And so I feel like now we're in a really good place to try something totally different and focus on this brand and customer experience. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing is that, you know, Town Properties is a wonderful brand. I'm very proud to work there. We actually manage so I don't really talk about this before, but we manage apartments. We manage about 15,000 give or take, but we also manage homeowner and condo owner association units, and so overall, about 350,000 people wake up in an apartment, condo, home managed by Town Properties every day, which is a huge responsibility, and so next year, we are also going to be focusing more on the brand of Town Properties, and really talking about who we are, and so for that, I've been able to bring on an additional person to my team. She'll start in January, and I'm really excited about that because it's kind of what we talked about before. We were using an agency previously, and they were great, and they did a wonderful job, but they weren't there, and they didn't know the company, and they didn't love the company, and they didn't they just didn't there's something different about working at a company and really just feeling strongly about doing the right thing and the best thing that you can, and so, I'm excited to bring her on board, and we're just gonna figure out how, to make it so that everyone knows who Town Properties is, and that's the goal, and that's really exciting. And when I say everyone, I mean primarily within the industry, that's a large focus, and then also keeping our brand in front of our homeowner, condo owners, and residents.
That's exciting.
It's really
Got a lot
exciting.
going on next year, and it's
Yeah.
all, like, stuff I know you love the branding stuff, and so this is in your wheelhouse. It's gonna be a fun year. I can't wait to talk about it as we continue to do our podcast and hear about how it's going. Um, but it's been a fun year for both of us.
Yeah, we've, between the 2 of us, we could write a book, I think, of all of the and, besides that, the podcast, the apartment department, we've talked I think that's been my favorite thing is, like, all the different people that we've talked to. Like, some people, one of us or both of us had never even spoken with before, some of our guests, and we just happened to get hooked up with people for whatever reason, and, some people we knew very well, but to be able to have such a big network of industry friends now and have these wonderful conversations, besides what we've done at our respective firms, I think that that's been really, really special is just, to be able to connect with people across the industry.
I'm glad you said that because we've learned a lot doing this with these guests that we've had on, and I think we should give a shout out to all the guests that we've had for the time that they've given up. Of course, Carlos, and then all of the listeners and all the feedback. We've gotten some really nice feedback from everybody that listens. Please continue to send us feedback, or if you want to be on, or you have a question that we haven't answered. We love hearing from everybody, and I think it's really amazing that we've been able to do this. Our industry is so small, and somehow we've created a little pocket, and people are listening, and I'm so thankful. I mean, what else could we ask for when we started this thing? Not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah, we didn't know, was anyone gonna listen? I mean, No idea. We literally had no idea, and, the fact yeah, like you said, that we've been able to connect with so many people and get feedback and, it's been vice versa too, like, I like I said, I just feel like I've grown so much. They always say, like, networks are so important and, have a strong network, and I never really understood that until the past several years, but this year has really just reiterated that for me. And again, having a network of friends now because of the apartment department is it's just undescribable. Indescribable? Something.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. I mean, this has been really fun. We had I think back for a couple years where we were just doing this, me and you just talking shop like we do with our guests, which is kind of, I think, made our podcast fun to listen to because it isn't so serious. We're really interested in what people have to say and we let people kind of hone in on what they're good at. But to turn that monthly talk into this and be able to do this with you and all the people that have come on and listen, I mean, it's been really fun, and I'm really looking forward to 2025 and what we're both going to do and what our friends in the industry are going to do and what our industry is going to do. I think 2025 is going to be a stronger year for us, just as an industry in a whole, than 2024, 23, and 24. Just I think the market will be better, and it's gonna be fun to kind of see how it develops and evolves and what we get into next year.
Y Yeah, I can't even wait, and I know some of it we have planned, and then some crazy thing's gonna happen, and we'll have to pivot, and that'll be exciting too. So, Chris, thank you so much. Carlos, thank you so, so much. To our listeners, thank you. Everyone, happy holidays, have a wonderful new year, and we will talk to you in 2025. Thank you.